Hey everyone, I'll give everybody some time. Kind of block my shot here. I'm gonna go for it. Happy holiday, happy holiday. All right, I'll give people time to join us, including Nikko Kennedy, our guest today. How is everyone? Hey Jen, hey Michelle, nice to see you. So Michelle, I Love What I Doula LLC, she is going to be one of our guests coming up, one of our doula speakers. I'm so excited. Excuse me, I don't want to limit you, Michelle. We get to talk about everything about your path. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to try to get Nikko in real quick. Yay. So we're going to give it a minute. And if it doesn't load up, then we're going to have you cancel, and I'm going to try inviting you on. Okay, so hi, I'm Jessica Johnston. I am with the Pacific Birth Institute. I am a certified professional midwife. Myself and Jennifer Hoadley, a certified nurse midwife, are the co-founders of the Pacific Birth Institute. We provide courses, document templates, in-person skills trainings, community birth experiences, and retreats for CEUs and really just good healing time for midwives. And all birth workers. It's our goal to increase advocacy, access, and education for community birth work right now. So we really make it our goal to get you guys what you need at prices you can afford and what you actually want to learn about. And part of it is our commitment to education and advocacy. Part of that is this, the Birth Working Weekly Wednesday series. So what you'll see every Wednesday is Jen and I will go live, and we will have on either guests or each other, and we're going to do topic deep dives. We're going to also be doing transport, anticipatory guidance, and treatment lessons. We're going to have interviews like we will today with Nikko Kennedy, other professionals, any professionals that our team wants to hear from, absolutely. And we'll have student interviews and pathway and birth story and midwifery and student birth worker story interviews. So yeah, if you want to speak on this series, there is a form on our website now. Please go ahead and fill it out. We want to hear from you, especially what you're doing now, where you're at, to make community birth work. That's what this is all about. Okay, so I'm going to now, so Nikko, I'm going to see if I can invite you. And now I'm inviting you, Nikko. Let's see if it works. But I'll just keep up on housekeeping while we get Nikko on. So a couple of things going on with the Institute as we crest into 2024. One, sign up for our newsletter. We send it out once a week now, and it has information about our episodes, contact forms, and all of the cool new things we have coming up. A couple of courses we have for sale right now, neonatal hypoglycemia. It is an ebook. It's $26. Instant download, available now on our website shop. And next month, we're going to be hyper-focusing. January is all about neonatal hypoglycemia. And so we have that ebook, and then we're going to have some cool interviews and transport and treatment and anticipatory guidance lessons, specifically around how to treat hypoglycemia in the field when you're more than 1 to 3 hours away from hospital and higher risk or higher treatment availability, and some cool case reviews. So let's see. Okay, so Nikko, I'm going to try and cancel, and we're going to let it sit for a second. Can you go ahead and leave and come back in, and then I'll invite you when I see you show up. Okay, a couple more minutes of housekeeping and getting her online, and then we're going to start. It's going to be great. But this is good for me. This keeps all my notes fresh. So come on in, guys. Nikko will be on here soon. So what else do we have going on? We have right now, get on our email list because it has all cool things on there this week for Institute happenings is apply for our professional birth assistant training scholarship. Obviously, buy it. Please, we love that. We're midwives. We made it. We love it. But we're also saying apply for a scholarship because we're going to have something specifically coming out primarily to scholarship recipients before it goes public. So please go do that. We also have a 2025 Kona, Hawaii midwifery retreat and CEU. Any birth worker can come. It doesn't just have to be midwives, but there will be CEUs for midwives. We have an interest form. Right now, there's about 15 midwives who want to go between January and March of 2025. And so if we get more interest, we can get places booked and get things set up. And so they're going to ask about price range. What are you looking for? If you want to join us, we're so excited about that. Okay, let me see if I can bring her in again. Yay. Other than that, though, we have a 911 and SR transport script available now online for $5.99. So go get it. Hey, Nikko.
Hey, does it look upside down to you?
It totally does. Oh my gosh, that's
okay,
so
just
funny.
a second.
No worries. I'm going to adjust my stuff too. It's like I need my techie husband back in here. Here we go. Hi.
No,
Now it's
sideways.
this way.
Hi.
Yeah, hey.
Okay. All right, here we go.
Awesome.
Let's see. It's, of course, on my power cable this way, so hopefully my battery will last.
I completely
right.
understand. Yeah. All right. Welcome.
Hey.
Okay. I'm so excited to have Nikko Kennedy with us today. This is Nikko Kennedy. She is a perinatal quantum biology practitioner. We're going to give her a second. Take your time, Nikko. But I'm super excited. This last week, she made a couple of fantastic slideshows that have a lot of great data in them specific to birth workers. So please take a second when you're done with the live, pop over to Brighter Days, Darker Nights, follow her. Check out the slides she put together. They're also on Pacific Birth Institute. But go follow her and check out what else she has there because she's going to wow us. So everybody get ready for notes. I'm going to need to take notes for sure. So, hey, Nikko, how have you been?
Good. Thanks so much for having me on. This is exciting.
This is so exciting. And you just spoke recently, didn't you? Did you just do a presentation as well?
Yeah, I do. I'm teaching all the time on my website, brighterdaysdarkernights.com.
Okay.
So I have a program running there for practitioners that has a video coming out every other week.
Wow.
And then I also teach about once a month in my family group.
Okay.
So I have clips of those coming out. And then I did an Instagram live with Amy, she's Body Motion Love Mechanics. So definitely recommend anyone who's interested, like she does pelvic floor. And she just had her first baby and had a beautiful birth. And she was putting all of this stuff that we're going to talk about into play with like tons of sunshine, being outside, grounding, earthing, all of that. And she had a beautiful birth. So we talked about our birth stories. I've had 4 babies. And so I kind of shared some of the experiences that I have had. Yeah. And she shared hers. It was super sweet. So yeah, we've had a lot going on. Around here, this new practitioner program I'm doing is just kind of launching. So I've only been running it for the last month. So I'm really excited about it. And that's part of why I'm trying to get out and about and spread the word because I'm really passionate about this topic. It's made a huge difference for me personally. And I also can see how it's so relevant. And I'm excited to talk with you because of the birth community. We face so much circadian disruption with being on call. Like you get that call and it almost, like it's always 3 a.m, right?
Right? Yeah, pretty much. If it's not before 8 p.m. or 10 p.m., it's going to be 3 a.m. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And so then you're out driving around on the roads and all of that. And, so it's hard to stay regulated. And I think that it's part of the reason why there's so much burnout in birth work. And I know that you guys have really amazing programs for people. And I love the whole concept. I first saw you guys when you connected with Margot from Indie Birth and you did a podcast with her. And it was so fiery. And I was just nodding along the whole time, like, yes, this is exactly it. This is why it's so hard to get people into birth work because, you know better than I do, even because of your role, that it's really challenging to get people through the training and then to have the support that they need through that. So I love that with the birth assistant role coming into everything, that midwives could have more support with their caseload because it's a big deal and it's a lot of responsibility and it's really challenging with all of the sleep disruption to stay happy. And I know so many people who, their family life has fallen apart or different things that I think are a lot tied into the mood and health and all the other struggles that come into birth work.
I mean, already like we're getting right into it, but I do want to take 60 seconds
Sure.
because I want you to tell us as practitioners about what you're offering. Like, tell us, what is it that a practitioner gets from this practitioner program? Because I really want to know that meat, and I want everybody to hear what that is. Yeah. Okay. What is this practitioner program?
Sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. So it is a membership program, and I'm running it through the Substack platform, which if you know about that, it started out as a paid newsletter, and they added video functionality and really upgraded that this year. So I was like, oh, video, well, I can basically run this as a course. And so I have a curriculum that I created that's a whole year. I'm calling it the Circadian and Quantum Childbearing Year. And it teaches step-by-step how the circadian rhythm and quantum biology affect pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. So right now we're in the fertility section. We're all about circadian rhythms and how it affects female fertility, male fertility. When there's disruption, what happens? Huge with the comorbidities. Huge, huge, huge. And you see, I'm really focused on research. So in the practitioner program, you also get my Google Drive, which has like hundreds of papers that I've curated about this. So you can search the Google Drive. It's really fun. I do this all the time. And it's like, I've already looked at all these papers. And so you can just search a topic like preeclampsia or liver or male infertility, or like just different things like your clients are going through. You can search inside of that Google Drive, and then peer-reviewed research comes up around that issue. And then you can kind of get this other perspective, because it's kind of behind the scenes with all of the things. So rather than like playing whack-a-mole with this condition or that condition, this gives a way to just support health overall. So it's a really good like additional thing to have up your sleeve for people, especially anyone dealing with like sleep disruption is a really big one. And then anyone that has a comorbidity, like, and basically 99% of people have circadian disruption from night light pollution alone. And so then when we add in mistimed eating, lack of daytime light exposure, right, then it just kind of comes up to, it's something that pretty much everyone faces.
Wow. Okay. I love it. And so it's a membership model.
Yeah.
And so brighter days, darker nights, you'll have a link right there on your Instagram. People can go check all of that out in the Substack. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so grateful. Okay. Well, to give everybody a chance to understand, welcome to Birth Working. If you just hopped in, while we're chatting, I'm going to let Nikko kind of take the stage and give us a little presentation, because she really dialed in some good stuff for us. And so I might ask some questions. I might just sit and be quiet and take in while everybody else does. But please do put your questions, anything you want. The chat can be active by all means. Chat. If you have a question, do put it in there anytime you want, because then I can make sure when Nikko's wrapping up that I can go back up and I can start being the one that moderates and asks those questions. So dump questions as we go. Otherwise, Nikko, I'm going to let you take it away. Everybody, this is Nikko Kennedy, prenatal quantum biology practitioner. Go for it.
Thank you. Thank you. And I also serve locally and virtually as a doula as well. I'm a certified labor and postpartum doula. So I have a couple of roles that I help people with, and that's where all of this information has been so helpful for me personally in managing this career, this lifestyle of being on call for families, and then also for my own family. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, I have 4 children, so I've been through this a lot of times myself, and then I've also worked with a lot of people. And so this information that I found is kind of a balance I try to put between like scientific verified knowledge as well as my own personal experience and experience working with clients. So that's kind of the framework that I'm bringing this information with. So circadian disruption and the circadian rhythm is something that is a lifestyle based thing. There's no like pill that you can give. Light is the main driver of the circadian rhythm. And so you want that light dark cycle. And I saw in the comment, everyone in Alaska has light disruption right now. And yes, we have these short days. And there's also in the summertime, then a lack of darkness too. And so that's also like, there's 2 sides to the light equation. There's the light part and there's the dark part. And traditionally, people's sleep rhythms would change very much depending on the time of year and what kind of light they're taking in. So around the equator, where it's more consistent, you would have a consistent circadian rhythm around the year. But towards the poles, it varies more. And so people's sleep used to vary. And actually, a polyphasic sleep schedule is more natural to most humans from what we can think. And we've proven this in the lab.
Yeah. Can you define polyphasic as the
sleep schedules? So basically, the whole idea that we need 8 hours of consolidated sleep is a myth.
Okay.
It's a construct of a 16-hour artificial lighting schedule. And that's what most people have, is 16 hours of light. Then you turn your light off right before bed. And so then you slam into sleep for 8 hours, and then you wake up, and most people wake up feeling like crap after 8 hours. And then it's like, oh, you maybe need 9 hours, 10 hours, right? And so for birth workers and people with young children, I find it so liberating to share the message that you don't have to get all your sleep at once if your lighting environment is right. And so that's the thing, is you really want your light environment synced to the sun. And there's a really big difference here. For birth workers, it's important to know that there's a difference between sleep disruption and circadian disruption. So the sleep is an effect of the circadian rhythm. And most people think to have a healthy circadian rhythm, you need to be waking up and going to sleep at the same time. Not possible in this career. Not possible as a parent. There's too many variables. And most people, likewise, even if they don't have children or aren't living on-call lifestyle, still are going to go to bed and wake up at different times every day. So that's a really unrealistic and impractical, and it also isn't backed by science, because that time that you go to bed and wake up, that schedule is actually a secondary Zeitgeber. Zeitgebers are what cue your circadian rhythm. So those things, those social things that the decisions we make, are secondary to the light and our food timing. Okay. So food timing is also a direct entrainer of the circadian rhythm. So to have a healthy circadian rhythm, you want to be having your light cycle in line with the sun, and you want to be eating when the sun is up. And so that makes a very short eating window in Alaska. And the way that people traditionally would get around that was by being in keto for the winter, because what particularly gets dysregulated is your carbohydrate metabolism. So
it's fascinating too. It's fascinating, Jen and I being from Alaska, so the newborn metabolic screening, the heel poke test, the little drops of blood in Alaska, we screen for the Arctic variant gene, because the Arctic variant gene, due to this centuries, or this, anthropologic history of the light cycles and the availability of, let's say, food in general, depending on the weather, babies who have specific gene expression actually cannot go with destabilized blood sugar. And it's really intriguing because of that relationship, I think, anthropologically over time.
It's so fascinating. So one of the other big talking points, like most people think of the sunshine with vitamin D, right? And you get your sunshine from the vitamin D or your diet. And people who lived in that Arctic area have much higher ability to recycle vitamin D. Like they did a study on Norwegian populations and they haven't found the upper limit for how long the same vitamin D can be recycled inside of the body.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well,
so
I'll give you the anecdote right now.
Yeah.
Jen, my poor sister, my sister, she's in Alaska, where there are over 70 inches of snow already. Like normally it's 77 inches a winter in the Anchorage area, 70, and it's December, right?
My gosh.
It has been an exceptionally snowy year. On top of that light cycle change, being at the 61st degree latitude. I spent 39 winters, give or take a couple, like little vacations in there, really.
Yeah.
In Alaska.
Yeah.
And this is my first winter in a southern latitude.
Ooh.
And I tell you, I'm like a plant. I am feeling great.
Yes.
This light cycle variance of 1 hour every 6 months. Wow.
Yeah.
The reliability of the sun rising and setting at a reasonably reliable time. My nervous system has never felt better.
Yeah.
My nervous system has never felt better. And this is just that anecdotal Alaskan, right? Who was raised with 15-hour light changes every 6 months.
Yeah.
There's no Everything is balanced there. You just ride the wave.
Right. And right now there's a big deal because we have this artificial light and imported food available to us at all times. And so we're not actually getting in tune with the natural environment. So most people that live in super northern climates would have sauna or sweat lodge or some kind of form of getting infrared heat. And that's one of the problems. So with artificial light toxicity, there are two things. One is it's dysregulated if you're getting it after sunset because it suppresses melatonin. And melatonin is a huge topic we can talk about with reproductive health. But the light can suppress melatonin. So that's one problem. But the other problem is that these artificial lights, particularly the new energy efficient ones, have all of the red and warm frequencies cut. And so that infrared stimulates melatonin from our cells that's not from the pineal gland. It's not circadian. It can go anytime. And so when you go into that sauna or sweat lodge or hot spring, it's actually your body is cellular producing melatonin. So even if you are having, there's not as much heat in the environment, people would add that heat back in. And so when they there's places where now it's illegal to have infrared bulbs being sold, like in California, they're like, no incandescence, no incandescence. And so there are all these energy efficient lighting. So if you touch your light bulb and it's cold, that means there's no healing frequency. It's just it's basically straight cortisol. It's like unrefined sugar of light. And so that's the other problem. So there's two things, because in the sunlight, there's always infrared. The infrared spectrum's always there. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So that's some of the things, as far as tips for birth workers. If you're working in the wintertime, make a sauna practice. And my local midwife here is religious about going to the sauna. And I'm like, you get it.
I mean,
you totally get it.
There's so much to be said for community. There's so much to be said for it, for stoking the fire through the dark time of the year.
Yes.
So there's a lot of internal hope and building fire, even what you're given, that has so much energetically to do with avoiding seasonal affective and excessive depression. Just even that marriage of knowing that I do this for benefit. And infrared sauna, hello. I've done it. I love it. I don't know anybody who gets out and is like, nah. If I'm going to spend time doing anything when it's cold and wintry, this is a fantastic pastime here.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's so healthy and is really, really supportive of this time that we live in, where there's so much artificial lighting. And so as much as you can, actually having a dim, dark environment is important. And that's one of the boons of if you can be a home birth practice, is that in the home birth setting, it's a lot more likely a woman's going to want that physiological, it's instinctive to want a warm, dark, quiet environment that feels safe. And part of that is physiologically the melatonin release synergizes with oxytocin in the womb, in the uterus, and it makes the contraction stronger, and it is what is going to prepare the uterus to be receptive to oxytocin. And so that's part of why labor onset is most often in the night, because of that action of melatonin there. And it also is a major free radical scavenger. And that's part of why it feels so good to have high melatonin, is that it reduces inflammation and balances cellular redox. And so it gives you the ability to use more energy when you have high circulating melatonin. So it's really important to have that dim environment at night as much as possible. And then, like I said, you can make up for it the next day. Like anytime you can catch the sunrise, that light will stimulate your circadian rhythm. That light has infrared in it that will release the cellular melatonin and help you stay happy and healthy. Even if you've been up all night, it's still worth it to catch that sunrise if you can, from outdoors or through a cracked window. The sun is so healing, and it doesn't matter what latitude you're at. Anytime there is that sunshine, it's going to have the healing frequencies and be a good way to program your circadian rhythm. Regardless of what kind of schedule you're keeping, you still want to see the sunlight in the day, then go have a nap. And you still want to have a darker night. And naps can be totally circadian too.
Okay.
It's not like I said, the 8 hours consolidated sleep is maybe realistic for some people, but for most people it's not. So having like a nap when the days are really long, anecdotally, peoples in the Arctic and the animals and everything would have half of their sleep around noon and half of their sleep around midnight to deal with that long summer day. They wouldn't actually sleep for 8 hours solid in a row. It would be at a couple times. And so likewise, if you just have like the indoor lifestyle, like the NICU environment, they have the 4 care times, and that dim, consistent lighting, that's what naturally happens. So like people who are bedridden tend to go into kind of like a liminal where they like are just napping like 4 times a day for a couple of hours and then being awake. And it's kind of like a weird, groggy dream space. And people who don't spend enough time outside, I think that's part of like chronic fatigue, is that feeling of like never being caught up because they're never getting the bright enough light to stimulate their circadian hormones in the morning. And then likewise, they're not having dark enough nights for a long enough period of time. And so then it just kind of gets into this flow of like, the body isn't quite sure what time of day it is. And there are certain processes that can't happen at the same time. Like we know that we can't be awake and asleep at the same time. Like we know that, but there are also things in the digestive system that it also needs a period to be digesting food. And then we also need a period of autophagy when our cells are like recycling themselves. And it doesn't happen very well when our body's digesting food. And so that's like another 2-part rhythm. Same thing, like our heart has a time when it's working hard, and then it should have a time of rest. And so if we don't have the proper cues, then the body doesn't know or have enough time to do all of those processes. And so that's why dysfunction can result over time. And of course, mental health issues, like you mentioned, seasonal affective disorder, that's one of the most common ones. Depressive disorder, like in animals, they can induce depression by mistimed lighting cues.
That's never good. I don't like that at all.
No. And I actually despise reading animal studies because I'm like, that's so cruel.
I know. I have a girlfriend who works in an in vivo lab. Oh. And but she's doing amazing stuff. And it's one of those, anyways, that's a whole different topic. Yeah. So let me ask you the one question I know that we as providers get all the time. Supplementing melatonin in children, in pregnancy. What are the impacts of short and long-term supplementation? If that's even a nutshell you can kind of crack and get into here. I'd love to hear that.
Sure. So generally, if your body can make it on its own, supplementing is going to dysregulate the body's internal system. So in an acute situation, like in an arrested labor or in a labor that's being augmented with Pitocin, in that situation, there's really good indication to use supplemental melatonin with the Pitocin, and that you can potentially reduce the amount of Pitocin that you need because melatonin is synergistic with the oxytocin. So if the oxytocin system is dysregulated, it's also circadian controlled, then the melatonin is also probably dysregulated. And so in the case that synthetic Pitocin is being used, I think it makes a lot of sense, and there's good research to back that.
Fantastic.
But
that's great. Continue.
Okay, super. So I have papers linking to that, of course, in my practitioner program, in that Google Drive, and I could even send it to you. You can find it on the blog. I've written about it over and over again because it's so amazing, and you would think it'd be more well-known than it is for how helpful it is. Same thing with preeclampsia. In preeclampsia, I was just reading a paper. I wrote about it. The authors are saying this is the first breakthrough we've had in 50 years of preeclampsia research, melatonin. And so with melatonin, they can actually preserve pregnancy and protect the mother and fetus from harm. So normally preeclampsia is like an instant, and if it's severe induction situation, but they're finding that supplemental melatonin there can actually preserve the pregnancy a little bit longer and reduce the amount of harm. And so
that has to do with like vasodilation from relaxation, from having more melatonin on board, Or why
No.
would it preserve the pregnancy? Can you tell me more what you mean by
So
that?
they said that these authors are saying that the whole premise that we've been tracking down of high blood pressure being the problem is the incorrect route, that's a simpler, it's not the main thing that's going on. And so they used to call it toxemia, but they never could find the toxin that made the symptoms. So they're finding that it is oxidative stress, and it is highly correlated with melatonin dysregulation. Women who have preeclampsia almost always have dysregulated melatonin.
Wow.
And it comes from the first trimester. The first trimester, you need the mother to have really high melatonin while the placenta is being formed. So during that time of the placenta being formed, if the mother doesn't have enough melatonin, the placenta won't form properly. And so then by the time third trimester rolls around, you have placental insufficiency, and the placenta itself creates melatonin that causes the physiological rise. So like in first trimester, second, third, the melatonin is steadily increasing in a healthy pregnancy. But in women that have complications, this melatonin rise is not happening. And part of that is if the placenta doesn't form correctly in the first trimester, by the third trimester, it's too small and it's not creating melatonin. And the placental melatonin goes to the baby, but it also goes back into the mother.
Wow.
To help balance her redox levels so that she's having the right amount of oxidant and antioxidant force. So it's really, really important. So by the time the third trimester rolls around, if a mom has preeclampsia, that's when supplemental melatonin might be indicated in a medical provider context. So I don't recommend anyone just like take supplemental melatonin like over the counter, but working with a medical provider in these acute situations, like a stalled labor or severe preeclampsia, it can really be a good thing. And the research here is really amazing and so hopeful because there's a lot that can be done once you know that to get the mom to work on her melatonin through her pregnancy, starting first thing. Like the first trimester sleep is so important, and the sunshine exposure is so important, the infrared to build melatonin. And like in South America, in Central America even, I was just reading some historical documents about how they used to do sweat lodge with women in pregnancy. And nowadays that would be, you know, like they're so heat phobic in pregnancy, but I was reading this like, oh, they were doing sweat lodge with women while they were pregnant. And I'm like, oh, well, from the melatonin perspective, that makes sense since the infrared will boost the body's ability to produce melatonin at any time of day. Not just with the circadian release.
You know, what comes to mind right now is the client, the different placentas we saw in 2020 and 2021 at the height of the pandemic. There was such an increase in, so placentas have cotyledons. So they have this increased surface area by having these pieces, you know, and all of this increases that surface area for our listeners who don't know. We were seeing less cotyledons. We were seeing and I don't want to say we were seeing a ton of placental lakes because that's not what it was, but we were seeing, and it was me and a couple other midwives, of course, just chatting, right? That there was less cotyledon development in the placenta. The placentas were smaller, right? Preeclampsia and in general went up during the pandemic and after. We've seen high of it in these last years. Smaller placentas. And so it's just interesting to me because I never made the melatonin. Of course it's rest. Of course it's eating well and, you know, getting outside. We know that, right? We should know that. But wow, what a stand. I'm really interested to read more about that specifically, the melatonin. That's fantastic for placental development and implantation, expansion, and the after implantation, but that expansion and the depth and integrity of the placental attachment being related to the pregnant person's ability to breathe deep, to really not get stuck in unprocessed trauma and stress loads, to dump allostatic stress and be able to recycle back down into normotensive and a balanced parasympathetic after any stimulation. You know, of course, here we have this huge pandemic, so everyone was getting into these allostatic states, these overwhelms. And we didn't know what we could expect from that, right? No. And we can't, we're going to, it's until we don't get into the causation correlation stuff. It's just, that's interesting, the correlation, preeclampsia, placenta, So yes, please go ahead and keep going. I'm so excited to hear. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's just a really nice thing where there's this synergy too between the environment that makes it good for the birth worker to be in and for the client to be in too in that labor moment. And it's something that when I've talked with families, they're like, oh, I never even thought of that. Like, because birth work, you talked about trauma, and like birth workers see so much of that, especially, you know, if you're working in a hospital setting where there's the cascade of interventions and things going on. And I know that there's a lot that we could talk about with regard to trauma. And one of the most powerful things from the quantum biology world for dealing with that is charging the collagen network. And so the collagen network is boosted by infrared. When you get that morning sunlight or the evening sunlight, it actually stimulates the production of collagen, and the collagen network touches every single point in the body. And collagen remodeling is another thing that is a huge rabbit hole if you wanted to dive into the healthy implantation. In that early pregnancy phase, collagen is a huge thing that is facilitating all of that. And so when you go out and get sunshine on your skin, and it stimulates ATP, and it also charges the hydrogen shell of collagen. So collagen's really beautiful. It has DNA is a triple helix, and collagen has 4 strands, and it interconnects the whole body and all throughout the womb, and it moves protons and electrons anywhere into the body. And so when we're talking about redox, we're talking about the balance of protons and electrons. And what melatonin can do that's so powerful is melatonin can donate electrons without becoming imbalanced. That's what it means to be an antioxidant, is there are electrons to spare. But one of the other ways you can give yourself your body electrons to spare is by grounding to the earth, and absorbing sunshine. And when we connect to the earth, it immediately starts flowing electrons through our body and charging the collagen shell. And the collagen cell, because it touches everything, can deliver electrons anywhere in the body, or protons. And so there's been really mixed results with antioxidants, dietary antioxidants. I don't know if you've seen that, where they're like, oh, vitamin E in pregnancy, yes or no. And then with newborn babies, they found that oxidative stress in newborns is a really big problem. And when you see it in jaundice, basically a newer theory about jaundice is that the amount of jaundice is a relation to the baby's redox level and how much oxidative stress it's going under. And so that oxidative stress is essentially an electron deficiency, an excess of positive charge. And so again, the mother's melatonin level and the level of charge inside of her collagen is going to be something that's a non-dietary route to address redox. And with like newborns, they can't give supplemental antioxidants because it increases their risk of sepsis, because their immune system is immature. And so their body's actually using that oxidant force to fight pathogens. So you don't want to take away the oxidative potential that it has, but at the same time, if it gets out of hand, it can damage its own cells. And so that's where working with the collagen network, like there is one study about grounded incubators, and it's like within minutes, it improves newborn vagal tone, which is a measure of the baby's well-being. And so I'm like, it works. Like all incubators should be grounded. There's, you know, because it would directly address this underlying electrical potential of the newborn and its ability to heal itself. But instead, it's in this environment with a really high EMF load that opens the calcium channels. And so EMFs open calcium channels inside of the body, which then let out positive ions. So it creates a positive charge. And for healing, we kind of need a negative charge. So that's where grounding the incubators to give like that neutral zone would really is, you know, it's just really obvious next step.
What do we also love? That's an easy fix. That's affordable and effective. Those are big pluses for me when it comes to any measures we take towards public health. If we're going to try to help, how can we do it with the least amount of harm? The least amount of investment, make the biggest impact, right? And be as pivotable and, you know, malleable to the needs as everything keeps going and changing. right? So,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I love it. Awesome. Well, I know that we're getting, let me just see, we got about 5 more minutes on the topic, and then I do want to have some time for question and answer too. So I would love to hear, how do you want to wrap us up? Because you've given me so much info. I can't wait to read more about this, especially in the membership portal. Everyone, check out her
Yep.
membership portal. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And since I just started it, I have it at a really affordable price, I think, for this information and the level of like quality that I'm putting into all of it. I think it's a really good deal. And there's also another tier that's more geared for like parents. And
Okay.
so that one, which you also get access to all of that if you're in the practitioner membership too. And I do a 4-hour workshop in there that's all broken down into videos, and it talks about like specific strategies for balancing the circadian rhythm. But I think that would be maybe a nice way to wrap up, is just with some practical bits. I think that we have done that earlier, but maybe there's new people in now that weren't in here earlier. And so for me, I find it really helpful to think of the circadian day as starting in the evening rather than the morning.
Okay.
You'll see so many people that are talking about sunrise, sunrise, sunrise. And sunrise is so important because like for all of the hormones, like at the end of the resting phase, that's when all of the sex hormones are released. And so for women who are struggling with fertility or menstrual problems, like the ovulation is triggered by those hormones that happen at the end of the rest cycle. So right when you wake up. So that's where going outside is so important. However, setting a sunrise alarm sucks, especially if you've been having a disrupted life. So that's where the evening, I think, is an easier place to start with getting like circadian friendly night lights that are amber or red toned. That have those blue and green frequencies cut out. And then we're talking about for the home, but then also for like the labor suite, anyone that's running a birth center should be thinking about this too. And there's a lot of research in the medical center, like women who, there's so much to share.
Okay. No, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
So women who have high risk pregnancies are like the most likely to be put onto bed rest, which is like a major way that circadian disruption gets increased. So there's papers about tuning the hospital environment to have brighter days and darker nights. And that is so important for the patients to have their healing and their melatonin, but it's also important for the caregivers there. And so you can be awake and up, but you just have your lights down low. So I'm not saying you have to go to bed at sunset, but it's just you turn your lights down at sunset. And to me, that's the first step towards a more circadian lifestyle. And if you have any devices that you're going to use, turn them into redshift mode, like so that the screen is all red rather than having that intense white and blue point light shining at you. So when you're looking at it, then that's just a little bit less blue light that you're getting exposed to, because to get melatonin flowing, you have to be in a dim environment for a couple of hours. But to move back into cortisol is just a second. So that's where people get in trouble, where it's like, some people are having almost no melatonin release because they have their lights on until bed. And so that's where dim them at sunset, regardless of when you go to bed. Then you go to bed, but then you wake up and if you need to go pee, and then you turn on your bathroom light or your hall light so you don't trip, then it's an instant reset back into cortisol mode, daytime type of waking. And then you go back to bed. It takes a couple hours in darkness again before you will be releasing a lot of the pineal melatonin again from your brain. So first step is that getting that evening light under control. And then once your evening light is under control, it's so easy to wake up at sunset. And people who have been like lifelong diehard night owls, when they get this light piece, this evening light controlled, waking up at sunset is no big deal. And I always tell people, like, if you wake up waking up at sunrise, if you wake up at sunrise, just go outside. And even if you go back to bed, still go out and just feel that morning light so that your body knows what time of day it is, even if you're going to go back and nap.
I love that.
Yeah.
How about the red light face masks that are really kind of all the rage for self-care right now? As a birth worker, are you kind of in love with those after a birth to help wind down? Would that be a good thing for us to consider as birth workers?
Possibly.
Yeah.
With any new tech, I like to use like an EMF reader to see, because the balance between it being like a better kind of light versus if it has a high EMF that's going to open your calcium channels.
Okay.
And then you also want to make sure that it's dim enough, because even with the red light, if it's too bright, it will still keep your body releasing cortisol. Even in the red. So the blue light stimulates it faster, but it's also brightness. So there's several, you want it to be like in the daytime, you want your light overhead. And then in the evening, you want your light down on the floor. So what I do in my home, we have little strips of red light and like Himalayan salt lamps that go on the floor, because that's like, it's low. And so when the light's coming in from below your eyes, it gives one response, whereas when it's over your eyes, it's another. So I don't put red lights in my ceiling. I put them down on the floor. And so that would apply to a birth suite. And there's some really interesting research about birth suites too, where they installed red lights, amber lights, yellow lights, and white lights, and then checked out how do people react in there. And they found that in the red light room, everyone, even the birth workers, all started crawling on the floor and using like said snake-like movements.
Interesting. That's amazing.
And the amber room was the most universally appreciated by families and practitioners and midwives. The amber lights. And then the white lights were perceived as sterile, and the situation was felt as more stressful, and like people felt like they needed to be more like on a time schedule, because that white light gives you that cortisol. And so you want that in the daytime. And you also want that in an emergency situation. Like, no one's saying that if you're doing an emergency cesarean that you should keep the lights low. Like, you need all the light you can for that emergency situation. But for a physiological birth that's going well, that light being red is better. Okay. So then you have the evening light under control. Then you're getting up and you're seeing the morning sunlight, and you're getting out throughout the day as much as you can. And then you want to make sure to eat the main part of your meals in the daytime as well, because the food will stimulate your circadian rhythm. And so especially for pregnant people, if they miss breakfast, it's almost impossible for them to get their nutritional needs without eating after dark. But when you eat after dark, it upsets your autophagy and different circadian processes. So that's where daytime eating is really, really key. And that's also true for birth workers. And they're starting to do research on people who work night shift. And they find that night shift people will have fewer like metabolic problems if they eat in the day, even though they're working at night.
Wow.
So you wouldn't shift your meal schedule to whenever you're awake. You would keep your meals happening in the daytime whenever possible. And then if you are eating after dark, to focus on protein and fats, and at least not eat carbs. Because of the way the metabolism changes. So those are the three really big things.
Yeah, we recommend that. I recommend that a lot of midwives do already to their pregnant clients. Good. Like, hey, I was going to say, actually, like, what did you fix that? Perfect. Yeah, I can see a little bit.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm not excited about not eating in the dark. I love it. I love
eating in the dark. Yeah,
I do. I love snacking,
so
actually, with a ton of artificial television light. And so it's funny, because now I'm going to have to integrate some different lights to help with that. But okay, I'm going to say we have a couple questions here. One is from SAS YT03. How does wearing contact lenses or glasses when outside affect pregnancy or breastfeeding toddlers with regards to circadian rhythm? What a great question.
Yeah. So glasses, like you said, I wear glasses. I take them off as much as I can outside, because they have UV filters in them. And so sunglasses would totally not be recommended. And you want to get outside, like, there's several reasons that you want to get the light on your on your eyes and your skin, because there's different kinds of photoreceptors.
Okay.
Henry's at Mima's.
Yeah.
And we want all of us kids to go help her at the chicken chores.
That's fine. You guys can go. Thank you.
Yeah. Andy, can we still go stay up there too?
Okay.
But he's sleeping with us down in the position. He's got his fingers off.
Okay.
This cute little smile. We got pictures of you. Great for the family photo album.
Thank you. Okay. Getting the update on what the my kids are up there with their cousins as well. So just getting the update. Everyone's moving. They're all going out to do the chicken chores now. So it might get a little bit.
How are you?
What?
Yeah, Nikko, where are you hailing from today?
Oh, I'm from Oregon, Southern Oregon, which is very south compared with where my ancestors all hail from, the far north.
Okay.
In northern Japan and Scandinavia. So I feel pretty blessed to have this, lovely sunshine climate. Here, it's really nice. I was born and raised in Oregon and went to school here, and I traveled a bit up and down the West Coast. I would love to go and see Alaska. I'm fascinated by that place, and so it's next on my list of travels on this West Coast.
Yeah. Well, you're one person that I think I would say, with your research interest, with what you do, I recommend you do go for a full year. Go do the whole thing if you're interested. Most people I'd say, oh my God, save yourself. Don't go till May. Come up with the whales come on May 15-ish, come up with the whales.
Right.
And then get out of there in the beginning of August, maybe beginning of September.
Right.
But, and also, so we also it was sweat lodges. So SAS Whitey 03, it is sweat lodges. Sweat lodges, you can look them up. They're really beautiful ritual practice of multiple indigenous tribes, I believe.
Yes.
I had my first sweat lodge with a Lakota shaman when I was 19, and it was one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. It was in Arizona, in Tucson, of all places.
Yeah.
So is Red Mode available on iPhone? Red?
Yes.
Yeah. I would
learn
about that too.
Yeah. In my story highlights, if you swipe over to the far side, a couple people did some tutorials about how to set it up. And so basically you set it up in the assist mode. And so I have it set up, and you can triple click your power button, click, and then it will shift it into red mode.
Nice.
So use the regular night shift, but when you need that like really solid red blocking, then you can do that. And so that tutorial is there in my stories. I didn't create it. I just found some other people who did. And I'm sure you can find blog posts about how to set it up too. And I wanted to go back to the question about contact lenses and glasses, because she also mentioned breastfeeding. And this is a huge topic for breastfeeding because babies get their circadian rhythms from their mom while they're in the womb. And then after they're born, the main entrainer of their circadian rhythm are actually the hormones in mom's breast milk, because newborn babies don't create their own melatonin. And so melatonin at night the breast milk at night has the melatonin. And so the mom's circadian rhythm is really important to help the baby and toddler regulate their circadian rhythm. And it takes about 2 to 3 years for the newborn baby's circadian rhythm to fully develop in all of the ways that we currently measure.
Wow.
And there's a case study about a baby who was only exposed to natural light after birth, and they started showing signs of circadian entrainment weeks earlier than what we consider as normal. All of the studies have been done under artificial lights.
Interesting. Wow.
And all of the lighting regulations we have for institutions and everything were all created in the 50s before we knew about the SCN and circadian entrainment and all of the non-visual effects of light. So it's definitely, there are people doing amazing work in the field of architecture to make all of this better for people so that we can just move freely between environments and not have to hole up in our little homes that we've made circadian, and that we could actually, potentially have a circadian nightlife, around the fire and with the red tone lights and all of that, where people could be up and around and doing things, because humans operate around the clock. It's one of our superpowers. So that's one of the things that I'd like to wrap up this talk with, is that humans go around the clock, and we always have, and we always will. And so the idea of being diurnal, daytime active, nighttime sleeping, just isn't really realistic for people, because it doesn't fit with what our physiology wants. It doesn't fit with what the light is telling our bodies. And so we really need to be working on tuning our environments and our collective environments so that we can all have happier hormones and, you know, melatonin, and also all of the fertility hormones, and all of the neurotransmitters have circadian rhythms. Our digestive system, every part of the body is interconnected with this light cycle. So yeah, that's.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
That's so, this has been fantastic, you know, and I like that. Where does the world where multiple times a day sleeping, or having this multiphasic sleep pattern, this polyphasic sleeping expression, where does it become normalized? It becomes normalized when the adults, even in the family, say it's very normal. And we're going to actually honor it. We're going to have space for it. We're not going to judge based on it. We're going to expand and adapt to it and address it as something that, because root cause, right? If you could change, it's these little things that if you can change these little things, and a lot of us have just never given ourselves permission, right? The embodied the internalized ableism of imperialism, colonialism, and patriarchy has got us chasing our tail and wondering why we're burned out, right? The allowance, the permission to sleep when you need to. You and your baby are just napping now. We're just napping just for now. It's just, and how beautiful to wrap it up too, because it's always just a season. Like you said, there is the variability of life really just requires a lot more intention around finding a way to surf it the easiest way. So how do you do it? You can make 3 or 4 to 5 very strong things. Like I give myself permission to sleep. I change my life cycles just a little, right? These are such key components, and she said, so they said, thank you for the lenses and glasses with regards to pregnancy and fascinating research on circadian rhythm. Takes 3-ish years for children. No kidding. And we expect polyphonic sleep from infants and children, and then cast moral judgment on adults whose day sleep. No kidding, right? I mean, no kidding, right? I actually sometimes wonder if we've had it backwards this whole time, and we should really be paying attention to the sage wisdom children come out of the womb with and kind of mimic it, because some of the strongest ways to support mothers and pregnant people when they give birth is to just watch what the baby needs and give it to the mother at the same time. So if the baby needs to eat, so does the mom. Or you know, if the baby needs to sleep, so does the person who gave birth, right? Like that, this concept of, it's very easy to watch these things, and in that season, that one sweet season, right? If you want your babies to sleep more quickly, then you're going to get your little butt up when the sun rises and going to go outside with your baby, and then you're both going to go back in. You're going to go back to bed, if you need to. But so much permission and allowance to allow these phases of our life to dictate some of that, but by creating these stable holds, it really does help. I can appreciate it. I had distinct lighting patterns. I had my entire house in Alaska set on timers with different lights, because again, I was trying to support a 15-hour light change every 6 months. And you know, in Alaska, you know what it ends up becoming is you just don't sleep as much in the summer. Your body just, it hyper imports all the sun you can. You don't eat because you forget. It's like it's 5 p.m., but it's 10 p.m. You're like, man, I'm hungry. Yeah, you forgot because you've been out playing. It's forever sun. And then come September or October, people are like, what are you doing? I'm like, I got shows to watch. I got sleep to have. I got 6 hours a day. That's it. That's it. And you just start to really honor that, because that is where the mental health comes in, is honoring what is available. So, oh, Nikko, I'm so grateful. Go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you, and then we'll sign it off. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, I am at www.brighterdaysdarkernights.com. And that's where you can get all of my learning materials. And there's a free plan, there's a monthly plan, and then 2 different annual plans, and the description's there. And I'm happy to do a consult too. You can message me. I'm Instagram /brighterdays.darkernights. And then I also do doula work and one-on-one consultations, and you can find those at nikkokennedy.com. Just my name, super basic little WordPress site I have there with a contact form. And so you can find me there too. If you want more of just this one-on-one, I do consults and I do support people for pregnancy and postpartum virtually. So that's available too. And
question for you, Nikko.
Yeah.
Question for you. What could Pacific Birth Institute do for you? What could we help you with?
I totally love your work, and I applied for a scholarship because I am trying to get an apprenticeship with my midwife, who is amazing, but she only wants someone who is like totally medically savvy. She's like, I don't want to be training someone up. I want to know that they're solid. And so your program, I was like, oh, that would be so perfect to get through that first year of the midwifery apprenticeship slog and just, chunk it down and be like ready to step in as a more like active role. I already have birth experience from being a doula, so that medical piece, I love that you're doing that program. And then likewise, I mean, you guys are just doing so much, and it seems like you've really have like boosted the amount of outreach you're doing. And I loved watching the live that you did last week about preeclampsia and hearing that provider story and journey that they went on. Totally beautiful. So you guys are just killing it, really. I love hearing your interviews and your energy that you bring to all of this. So all of that is great. I can't think of anything more than what you're doing, because you guys are just really being phenomenal.
Well, thank you, and we always want to hear from you guys what you do want to hear, and I'm so grateful you did that you're on the scholarship right now. We've got 30 applicants. That's why I'm like, if anybody wants a scholarship, please apply now, because we're going to get this list loaded, and we're going to actually release something that's going to be more targeted to scholarship recipients in 2024.
Yeah,
so that
I know
is
you
shout
keep
out
teasing
to
that
everyone.
out. I'm like, what is it?
I know, and it's one of those things that Jen and I. I'll tell you, less than 60 seconds. This is the issue. Jen and I have an exceptionally large program. It has almost 190 lessons, over 100 hours of stuff. We say over 60 because we don't want to scare you. It's huge. It's so big.
Wow.
And so what ends up happening is when I'm like, we got to break this down.
Yeah.
I get it. It's got a big price tag. It's big.
Yeah.
But there's so much in there that we can make so much more accessible, so much more quickly. So we're doing more lives. We're going to be doing a lot more actually just green screening it and teaching something for free. So people, if they can't access it and they're on the scholarship list, because we scholarship one full tuition for every 5 paid.
Yeah.
So as that goes, we're going to actually open up something else that'll help get you guys in more. But we're going to start doing a lot more of these interviews and some green screen education to get some of this going for other people. Because it's a lot. Thank you for your feedback though. And thank you, Nikko, for being here. I hope you can join us and everyone else here live next week. Jen and I are going to be doing next week, and it's going to be hilarious.
Yes.
At least for her and I. We will have fun, because we are going to, the whole theme of next week's talk for us is, what did we say, Jen? We said, did you know PBI was started out of spite?
Yes.
And it's really true, but it is.
Yeah.
And so we're going to go into
you're on my list and not those meek schools, because I remember in your interview you're like, I went and audited one of those meek schools, and I thought about that. I was like, maybe I'll just audit this school, like the audit price is really low. And then I went through the curriculum, and I was, when I listened to you guys, I'm like, when I was looking through their curriculum, I was like, no. I felt like I was like, back up. This does not resonate with where I think midwifery needs to go. I just don't. I think that it needs to be a lot more of this practical, quick, get people in and have more people supporting births, so that we don't have women thinking they need to go and attend 10 births a month in order to make ends meet. It's not sustainable. There's no way to be attending 10, and some women are doing more than that. And it's way too much, and we need more people assisting, and we need more people through, even just to get the experiences of having been to a birth before giving birth themselves, for example. And so we need more cultural knowledge. And so for you guys to lower the bar and make that more accessible to people is just absolutely amazing. I think it's 100% the right direction.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's our goal. The preceptor you want to work with, have her reach out to us as well, because preceptors, really the professional birth assistant program, a lot of midwives are the ones that we actually deal with. And if they have a lot of students that they want to use that, we cut great deals straight to midwives and straight to students, because if they're willing to be your preceptor preceptor, right?
Yeah.
To where,
Mm-hmm.
because the birth assistant program involves Jen and I in office hours and having that support of Jen and I being midwives, because we have students in right now 24 states
Wow.
and growing. And so that's
awesome.
beautiful.
Your
And
program's
we
so
love
new.
it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, right. Well, and we love it. And do you know how much easier it is if I know you're with a midwife, a traditional midwife, an indigenous midwife, a pet midwife, a meek midwife, a nurse midwife, a community provider? Then I'm well, like right now I work with a couple of midwives here in South Carolina.
Perfect.
Same thing. It's like, let's get your students training, because if you are going to be able to answer their questions, then they just need access and you can be their admin.
Right.
And
that
if you're
makes
their
it
admin
easier for
team,
you.
it's great for me. And so that is really something. So do send the link to your preceptor. And anybody listening, I wouldn't be bringing this up if I didn't mean it for anyone. If you have a midwife who likes receiving students that have that baseline anatomy, physiology, the ecology of birth, how to set it up, how to take it down, the routine and complication care skills, have them reach out to us, because we like to talk to midwives. If they're committed to keeping students trained, we'll cut them really good deals because they're willing to be the ones who keep the students getting trained. So talk to your preceptors. All right, we're over time. As always, this was wonderful. Nikko Kennedy with Brighter Days and Darker Nights. Thank you so much. I feel like we could do another webinar specifically on some of these tips and tricks. And I'm really excited. Everybody go check out her provider portal, and parents, send your clients to check out the parent portal, because I think even the conversation would really be great for partners around accommodating needs that are so seasonally dependent in the life season cycle.
Yeah.
That this would bring a partner into the game so much more quickly with the person to be like, oh, wow, they really do need to sleep all the time now and anytime they want.
Yeah.
So now you're in
That's
charge
right.
of these other things.
Yeah, for that, they have a group discount. So for anyone who wants to join with their partner, it's 50% off. So you can join with a partner for free. Like, it's the same price if you have two people as one. So definitely bring a friend.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nikko.
Yeah. All right.
Great to see you.
You
All
too.
right, we'll be in contact soon.
Awesome.
All right, everyone, see you next
Bye.
week. Bye.